will have the playlists quieten down as well, but I'll work that out as we just make this quick first announcement. Top secret, the canapes that are going round are all completely vegan. Woohoo! So if you're at all worried about what's in the canapes, they are all completely vegan, and that's the wonderful Jazz, one of Reg's children. Of the 3 children that Reg has, marvellous. And we're going to start properly in a couple of minutes, but enjoy grazing, enjoy the canapes, which again are all vegan. And then there'll be an overt invitation to graze in a moment. I'm Chris Grimes, a very dear old friend of Reg's, and I'll be here to start the proceedings off properly in a couple of minutes. So if you need to do a comfort break, now is the time. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks, Chris.
There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Jazz, could we now turn off the list if that's all right? Thank you very much indeed. Hello. So good afternoon, London. Good. So yes, welcome, thrice welcome to this extraordinarily, wonderfully spontaneous event, which is a living wake, but with no morbid intention, because Reg is very much still awake.
Hooray!
There he is. And there is no morbid intention. We're not doing a cheeky trip to Dignitas anytime soon. Reg was born at a very early age, the 10th of September 1940, the end of the Spitfire summer. And here he is today, and as life as we know is a complete wicked mess, as it's called. Have you heard that expression before? Life is a wicked mess. We all assume the graph of life is, I was born at an early age, and here I am today. But as you know, we've gone all over the flipping shop to still arrive at this point, here on the 24th of May, 2026, to do a living celebration of the life of this glorious, beautiful, wonderful man. First round of applause of many. I first met Reg myself. I'm Chris Grimes, just once again, just to say that. I'm your master of ceremonies. I have the great honour and privilege of being adopted by Reg. And have you noticed, put your hand up if you feel you've adopted Reg yourself. Because reciprocity is my favourite word. As soon as you meet Reg, you just want to adopt him, and then he adopts you right back. So that's living reciprocity right there. Also, Reg was adopted at an early age too by a benefacting godfather called Sir Reginald, which I'm going to ask him some questions about later on as well. So that's almost how the name came about, because Reg's father worked for Sir Reginald, and then Reg was born, and then later on adopted Reg metaphorically and literally, and sent him off to his various establishments where he's had an extraordinary wicked mess of a life. And here he is. We are here to celebrate the wonderful man. So, as I say, I met him doing a comedy improvisation masterclass about 10 years ago, and Reg, the first thing he said to me was how terrified he was about to do a 3-day immersion into Find Your Funny through the Instant Wit Laughter Lab. But he became the most beautiful participant, made friends with absolutely everybody, And as I say again, as a deliberate reincorporation, everybody who meets Reg just wants to adopt him. He's a lovely, adorable, wonderful man. Also, did you know stereotypically, people are more likely to put in the effort to come to your actual funeral than they will to come to an event like today? So again, I'd like to say again, remember this day. You won't ever forget it, because I think it's such a wonderful thing to do a living funeral. In the studio there, as a bit of housekeeping, just to share with you, there's a montage of commercials playing. Reg is the original ad man, madman, and his halcyon days of the world of advertising and commercials generally are playing on a loop, just as a backdrop in that other studio. So at some point, make sure you go into the studio and watch the parts of the montage loop. Also in the background, enigmatically, there is a Spotify playlist which chronicles Reg's entire life. At the very end of today, I'm going to invite you, if you want to write in this book your number and name so that you can be involved in a WhatsApp group where we'll share pictures, memories, and various other bits of information from today. So Reg will live on, and live on he will in eternity, as we know. So what's going to happen in a moment, we're going to defer to this lovely man here, who, like Reg, is a wonderful journeyman. And Jim Smith, my friend Jim Smith, there's also a track that you're going to be sent by WhatsApp, my friend Jim Smith. In a moment, Jim is going to sing a favourite song of Reg's. So can we give a sort of channel of focus to the wonderful Jim Smith here? So Jim, just talk us through how long you've known Reg for yourself.
I think it must be 25 years, at least 25 years, yeah. And I'm 78 this year, god damn it, but it's like Reg is like a father figure, he really is. So I can see this thing about, I was adopted anyway originally, but that's another story. But yeah, Reg is a lovely man, wise, empathetic. And recently I've had the privilege, he's been coming over to my flat and recording some of his life stories when he was in advertising and copywriting and all that. And they really need to be heard, I think. They're just fantastic. And it's a pleasure to be here. Shall I just introduce this song?
Please do, the floor is now yours.
Right, one little thing is that I have single-sided deafness, so I've only got one good ear. Is that, can we turn that?
One's not on. But
Something, or maybe it's the whole generator.
there's a vibe of air conditioning.
You can probably, can you hear it? Oh. Right, this is a very famous song written by a man called Ralph McTell. And actually, I grew up near Ralph McTell. Yeah, but I didn't realise at the time, you know, who Ralph McTell was. Well, he didn't, but he became. I actually lived in Paris on the bus, on the streets when I was 16. So did Ralph McTell. But the difference was, Ralph went on to write this incredible song, and he called it "The Streets of Paris," because he noticed a lot of homeless people in Paris on the streets. So he got back to London and he played it to his best friend. And the friend said, "It's a great song, Ralph, but just call it The Streets of London." So he did. And this song to me, apart from the initial impact of homelessness, I left rehab in 1977, a place called Pinnell House. It was in Warningham Park, Surrey. It was the first rehab run by the NHS outside of America. Second rehab in the world, really, 1952. Anyway, I left there. My parents, who adopted me, had died when I was in my 20s. Things got a lot worse. I was a patient in a psychiatric hospital for nearly 3 years. Not, consecutive, different times. Things got really bad. I woke up in a hospital room in October the 27th, 1976, couldn't go on, burnt out completely. nearly 27 years old. Well, after I'd finished the treatment in the rehab, I didn't have much family, but I had an adopted great aunt, and I wrote to her. I don't know what urged me to write, but I wrote her this letter, and she said she really understood, and it was marvellous that I was sober. She invited me down to Wareham in Dorset, a beautiful part of the country, and I took a guitar down there and asked her if she wanted to hear anything specific, and she said, "You play whatever you like," and I played her this song. Part 2 of the story will be after the song, okay? Have you seen the old man in the closed down market, kicking up the papers with his worn out shoes? In his eyes you'll see no pride, handheld loosely at his side. Yesterday's papers, yesterday's news. So how can you tell me you're lonely? Say for you the sun don't shine. Let me take you by the hand, I'll lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to make you change your mind. And have you seen the old girl who walks the streets of London, dirt in her hair and clothes in rags? She's no time for talking, just keeps right on walking, carrying her world into carrier bag. So how can you tell me you're lonely? Say for you the sun don't shine. Let me take you by the hand, I'll lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to make you change your mind. In the all-night cafe at 11:15, same old man sits there on his own, looking at the world over the rim of his teacup, when each day lasts an hour and he wanders home alone. So how can you tell me you're lonely? Say for you the sun don't shine. Let me take you by the hand, I'll lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to make you change your mind. And have you seen the old man outside the Seaman's Mission, memory fading with the ribbons that he wears? And in our winter city the rain cries a little pity. There's one more forgotten hero in a world that doesn't care. How can you tell me you're lonely? Say for you the sun don't shine. Let me take you by the hand, I'll lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to make you change your mind. Thank you for that. I just finished the story.
Selling anything, but he's actually just done a wonderful single down here. Yes, so come and get me the name of the WhatsApp group as well. Okay. did you know, Reg, obviously international man of mystery, he's also an international cat sitter. Yes! He's strangely able to travel globally to take care of your pussycats wherever you are. When I told my goodly lady, Mrs. Grimes, that Reg is an international cat sitter, just putting it out there, she said, does he also do stick insects? Just putting it out there because they're a little bit less, I suppose, well, less stressful to take care of if you prefer to entrust your stick insects to Reg as well. So next up, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome a very dear old friend of Reg's, and Reg will retort to the lovely once he's finished. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to Mr. Barry Graham.
And she's lovely to be called a lovely old friend of Reg's. And as a lovely old friend, I've written my thoughts down, and I keep on looking at the lady who has the fan over there. Aren't you jealous? Anyway, if you get too hot, just go in there. Let me tell you, I had a speech written for him, and I promise I won't read it all.
You may be a bit louder,
but I won't
I
be.
know you're an expert, but you need to be a bit louder because the way competing against
My voice is quiet. Right. I've known Reg for 33 years. I worked it out, that's 40% of his life and mine. We're fortunate we live in one of the best places in the UK. We live in Richmond. And we're close enough to go out often. He buys me a coffee and I buy him a meal. Isn't he smart? Look at that. Now that he got from, was it the cancer research yesterday? No, you're not going to get my joke, are you? It's not a joke. We had an early celebration of Reggie's Saraband last night at the Buenos Aires in Richmond. It's a wonderful steak restaurant. I keep on telling people to go there. Prices are great. We don't feel old. We may look a little old, but we don't feel old. We feel young. Yes. We're bachelors. We love the Clint Eastwood saying. They say marriages are made in heaven. So is thunder and lightning. My ex-wife isn't here, so I'm all right. I'm going to catch up now and just tell you, I've been listening to Reg telling some of his stories, and you must look at the Chris Grimes Reg legacy, which is fabulous because you just learn so much about Reg that you didn't know, and it's good stuff too. Anyway, Chris has already told us that Reg was born in Barking on September 10 when the bombs were dropping, and his parents said to him that he was a Cockney, and Reg always felt, didn't you, boy? You always felt proud of that. And then one day he met in his circle of friends David Del Monte, and David was a Cockney. And Reg said, David, I'm a Cockney. And David said, where were you born? And Reg said, I was born in Barking. And David said, you're not a Cockney, you're an Essex boy. And that's true too. The family moved, his mum was called Kitty, isn't that a lovely name? We all remember Kitty, don't we? And his dad was called Alfred, but his mum called his dad Alf. And they moved and they had a benefactor, who Chris has already mentioned, who became very important in Reggie's life. They moved to Salisbury, and his mum and dad, who were a very handsome couple, and they had lots of friends, and they decided to open a pub. You can see where we're going with this, can't you? And anyway, so there was the beer there, was the cigars there, but there was no betting shop, because in those days there were no betting shops anywhere. So they discovered that the milkman, a very friendly milkman who Reg got to know well, used to take bets every day, and at the end of the week they would settle up. Now, I think that his benefactor realized that this could be a bad influence. You know, Reg being in a pub with a milkman coming by and taking bed. So he paid for him to go to a boarding school. I think Reg hated it. Eventually at 13 went to Morven, that famous boarding school where C.S. Lawrence, the writer of the Chronicles of Narnia, went to. Now, Reg hated it there. But what was interesting, that he started to mix with people that were, you know, the hobnobs, people with money. And I think Reg started to realize that in the future, whatever business he might get into, those sort of people were the people he needed to get on with. Anyway, I'm going to rush through because he's had such a special life. He went to try to get into an Oxbridge college, but they said, "You're too young, Reg, you're 16, you're a very bright man, come back in 2 years." Reg decided that there were other things to do, so he went to Paris. Unfortunately, he was a bit too young for the mademoiselles there, and so all the older guys were getting him. And so he used to go to Longchamp, the race course. He's had a real education, hasn't he? On Sunday afternoons, and plays his best. Anyway, when he came back, his benefactor said, "I have paid 500 guineas, Reg, for you to go into the law, for you to become articled." Now, Reg spent 3 years there. Now, one of the problems he had was that he was the only non-Jewish employee of this firm of lawyers. Not that that mattered to Reg, but at the end, he said to his benefactor, "I'm not sure if I could make a career in law." And the benefactor said, "No, I don't think you could." So they sent him to a careers advisory service. It wasn't called that in those days. And they gave him an isometric test. And it didn't surprise, you know, Reg, that when he came out, he said, "You'll never be a lawyer." Ever, ever, ever. So Reg's expression, he said, "Well, what can I be then?" And then he said, "Well, you could be a journalist, or you could get into one of these businesses that are booming in the 60s, the advertising business." Now, Reg thought, one of his friends had said there were always good-looking women in the advertising business. So he then went to a creative college. I'm amazed by the name, but we all remember it, Watford. And he spent a year in Watford. He had a wonderful time. Really, because he was older than the rest of them. He was 24. I mean, that was old, wasn't he? 24. Anyway, he came top of his class. And he went into the advertising business in 1966. I'd already worked for a long time. I hadn't had this special treatment. But he went to KMP, Kingsley Manson and Palmer. He went on to Y&R. And within the first decade, he had launched with 4 partners, his agency. So by the time he was just 30, 31, he had his name on the door. If I get it wrong, Rich, correct me. Beverly, Fowler, Maslin, Oxlade, and Starkey. Wow. So what did he do then? He liked, I mean, it didn't last that long, and a book should be written on it. It's just fascinating stuff. But he then launched 4 other agencies at different, well, the agency had to have his name on it, and then it would be all right. And he was growing, he was a very talented man. They elected him the director of the Creative Circle. Now, you don't become the director of the Creative Circle if you don't know what you're doing. And some of the pictures of Reg in those days, a handsome man and a talented man. Now, this is all history because I didn't know him then. We met him when both of us perhaps were past our prime. No, we weren't. And he was, you had to be this. Anybody who remembers the 60s? He was a consultant, creative, freelance. And I was owner of a small agency. It was so small, it only employed me. And it was lovely. It paid the bills. And we had a third partner, Richard Tennant, who sadly can't be here today. Now, Richard worked for another agency. Everybody did, didn't they? And in the evenings, he used to work with us. So it was a busy life. And it came under my name, GMC, and we presented against big agencies, Leo Burnett, Sarges. We didn't win them all, but we won a number. And we won them because, well, one, we had to, and we knew our business. We were at it, and so, you know, after that we got we got clients, and a couple of stories with Reg coming in. The first one, Reg was still drinking in those days, about 1997, and he had had a bit of a night, and he came in the next morning, and we were meeting this client called the World Press Group, and they were, you know, they worked for Time, Newsweek, etc., the Financial Times, and he looked shocking. I mean, nothing like this. He had bruises and this and that, and Richard and I were really, really worried. Anyway, we thought, we know how it's going to work. There was a very attractive, she was the marketing director of Fortune, she was a German lady, and she was tall and willowy, and we always knew that this would work great. So, and she always, do you remember when ladies, well, ladies, you would remember it, they had buttons on their blouses, and we always used to count how many she had not done up or undone, and we said, Reg, you've got to sit in front of her. He knows I'm making this up. And you've got to read the copy out. So he looked at her and smiled and read this beautiful piece of copy. And a client said to me afterwards, he said, oh, it's just beautiful. Even when Reg is injured, he still reads the copy so beautifully. The other thing was, let me say, looking at my notes very, very quickly, I can't see it, but the next one is that Reg has been a friend to all of you here. He's supported so many people. He's mentored so many people. Without Reg, lots of us would not be where we are. I can say that with truth. Reg has been a great friend and help to me. Richard knew Reg not for 33 years, but for 50 years. And if I can find it amongst his papers, his quote. Reg, what a unique man he is. A man who inspires, a man who survives, a real survivor. Two phrases that spring to mind for Richard was that Reg always used to say, the man the book is fear. And Richard says, somehow I think it was the other way around. And the other one he used to say to Richard was, next year we could all be millionaires. And of course, it could have been true. Anyway, we love you, Reg. Keep on. Keep on. The one thing I'm going to jump to now, because it may surprise you, you're not a failure. Please, guys, you're not a failure. If you're a failure, I'm a failure. Everybody here is a failure. Right, I've got one more quote from a lovely man Rich and I have been privileged to go every year to the Speechwriters Conference in one of the Oxbridge colleges. And his name is, when I get there, is Brian Jenner. Brian Jenner was a journalist, and then he launched about 20 years ago the Speechwriters Network in the UK and Europe. He's a really, really talented guy. And he said to Rich and I, would you please come to my conferences? I know you're not a speechwriter, we'll give you a special deal. That's why we go. And he gives us a special deal. And there's the most wonderful group of people. There's speechwriters throughout Europe. Some of them may have contributed to King Charles's speeches in America, but they're wonderfully talented people. And they look at us too, and they say, welcome veterans. Tell us, who did you write for? We love it. It's the one thing you never miss. So what did Brian say? Reg is the archetypal advertising man, and it was a pleasure to get to know him through the Speechwriters Conference. He is a glowing presence who understands the value of humility, loyalty, and fellowship. Given that he's a spiritual man, I have found a poem which I'm going to pass to Reg in a moment. I mean, Reg is humble, isn't he? He is a spiritual man. When I look at Reg sometimes, I think he's like Buddha to me, but to other people he may be like God. But I want to say one thing to him, which is that I was in a shop the other day and I saw this sweet, and it had a word in it, or two words, that really summed up what I feel about Reg, and I think it probably would be the same for all of you. So, it says, looking for it, it's a Toblerone, and says, my hero. Can we say that we do it by saying, God bless Reg, and God bless all.
Part before, which I love, is Reg was young when the Dead Sea was just pulling. Reg is someone, as you know, who always gets up again, and now he's got to get up again a set of stairs as he comes to retort to the lovely Barry Graham. So may I help you up, Reg?
Sorry?
Thank you, Fred. Thank you very much, Barry. And
Even louder, Reg.
even louder. Oh dear, I can't
Shout at us.
I can't shout. Oh well, you just have to, put your good ear in my direction. I want to say thank you to Barry, thank you to Chris, thank you to everybody for being here. I want to quote Dostoevsky, who said, people have beautiful things to say about you, but you must die first. Well, the idea of this party today was for people to say beautiful things about me. I didn't have to die first. So I'm grateful but hugely embarrassed by the nice things that people have been saying or writing for me. As both Chris and Barry have mentioned, I had a benefactor I named after him, and he sent me away to a prep school in Salisbury, and I'd come from Barking, and I thought I was a Cockney, but I was an Essex boy, and I learned to speak the way I speak now. And they had a motto which was ut sibi sic alteri, which means do as you would be done by. And it's a good motto, but I translated it for my own purposes to mean, if I know you, I owe you. Tony Hancock said, neither a borrower nor a lender be. Well, I got half of that right. I became a big lender, and there are people in this room today who have suffered, who've had their fingers burned, and all I can say is sorry. I have a new motto. I'm giving it to you now for the first time. It is Omnia Tibi Debeo, and it means I owe everything to you. And that's what I do. That's how I absolutely feel about my friends and my family. And I would like to talk very briefly about my three most prominent members of my family. My son, Davy, my eldest son. His mother, Sarah, is here somewhere. Davy is a carer, and I can tell you he has the kindest heart and the biggest heart and the broadest shoulders of anyone I've ever known. And give an example of him. Well, you've seen him in action today, but when COVID was on, when we were unable to, well, I was unable to get to the shops, David would cycle over from Deptford with food for me. Isn't that fantastic? My next son down, 10 years in between, different mother, Jerome. Jerome is a journalist. He's an award-winning foreign correspondent. I think he's a bit of an adrenaline junkie, but I don't think he'd mind me saying that. He's currently on safari with his wife and my two grandchildren, and they're hugely important to me. I should have said that what David has done today, apart from doing everything he's done today, has been to know Saul, who owns this place. And Saul, I'm very, very grateful to you because location. David, you know, could we use your studio? And Saul said yes. And this was available, and I'm so grateful. So thank you, David. Thank you, Saul. My son Jerome, who's in Tanzania as we speak, I'm to say thank you to him for lots and lots of things, lots of wisdom, lots of very bright man. But he provided the welcoming drinks when you arrived, and I think David provided some extra ones, but David's covering the non-alcoholic and Jem's covered the wine, and that's how they operate. And finally, my third child, my gorgeous daughter Jazz. She's totally bohemian, totally brilliant, and absolutely the most wonderful cook. And I'm grateful for all the food and organisation that's gone in with Georgie, also known as Saint Georgie. Two of them have been working. That's a huge backstory of drama, but I won't go into it. It's nothing to do with them, but they got involved in it. So they were working, way into the night to do it for today, and they did it. And okay, some of the technical things haven't worked out the way I wanted them, but that's the way for me. I think things hate me. And finally, I'd like to say thank you to my first boss in advertising, who died last year, Brian Palmer. He was my first and my best boss. And I'm hoping that there will be sufficient cards for you all. My ex-sister-in-law, Susu, will be handing out cards, and that will cover what I hope I'm going to remember. I did write everything down that I wanted to say, but then I lost it. So that is true. That's not a gimmick. So I'm going to try and remember the poem that's on this etching that you'll be getting as a card. Don't ask the gods what time you've got. They well may answer, not a lot. So seize the day, the here, the now. Kiss the lips, caress the brow. Enjoy autumn. Enjoy the hours of autumn days. Ripeness is all, the poet says. The clock is ticking as we speak. Who knows where we'll be next week? If you have anything in your glass, or even if you don't, only symbolically, I would like you to raise your glasses and toast to friends and to absent friends. And there are a lot of absent friends, either because they couldn't make it or because they're in the great agency in the sky. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Reg did me the great courtesy and honour of guesting with me in a special series strand to something called the Good Listening To Show, Stories of Distinction and Genius. And there's a series strand called Legacy Life Reflections that Reg was, as I say, did me the great honour of entrusting me with his life story. And Reg, I just want to ask you a question about, there was a plan afoot where a very dear absent friend of Reg's called Bob Noble was part of the cunning plan to try and do Reg's funeral for him. Yes, I'll do that for you. Yes, I'll take you to Salisbury, where we're going to talk about in a moment. But such is the carpe diem, the nature of, and the stuff of life. Bob Noble is one of your absent friends because he didn't live to be able to be here today at Reg's glorious living wake. The format or the storytelling structure of the show all takes...
I'll be brief. I absolutely adore my dad, and I hang out with him every week near enough, and we go to the cinema, and we're movie cinema pizza goers. And what I adore about my dad is even at 86, he's game for any cultural event I invite him to, like literally any. He'll go, yeah, I'm up for it, and he'll have trains across London and whatever. There's many things. I just want to make a special thank you, Saul. So first off, I've had a very emotional couple of weeks, right? I'm not milking it, but I really have had quite a challenging couple of weeks. So if at some points I've seemed a tiny bit tense today, it's not really about today, it's about the 2 weeks I've endured. Very sick partner who looks glorious this today. But if you'd seen her on Monday, I'm telling you, a different story. Right, so the wonderful things I'm going to quickly say about my dad. What I really like about him, I've known him for 55 years, that's how old I am. Right. What I love about him is I genuinely, incredibly rarely, if virtually never, hear him say anything bad about people. And I absolutely love that, because quite a few, I won't talk for other people, I can sometimes get into their, start bad-mouthing people. I can genuinely say my dad doesn't do that. Also, another thing I absolutely adore about him is his enthusiasm for people's ideas, even if it's almost delusional. And, right? But I just adore it. I really adore his enthusiasm. And there can be a young person sort of wanting to set out on a career and do whatever. And all you need is my dad there to G them up, and they're like, this is the most, So he's a great guy on that. I really have been hanging out with my dad once a week for about, sort of since the COVID things and whatever. I also know that I'm extremely close to my dad because even if I get a bit spiky with him or he gets a bit spiky, he very rarely gets spiky, I get a bit spiky with him. We recover incredibly quickly, and I actually think that shows a real deep sign of affection for each other rather than letting it bother. Saul is an amazing friend who let us use this venue. Jazz is the best sister you could hope for. Who's pulled off a fabulous piece. I am a bit sad that my other lovely brother isn't here. And I must admit, when everyone kept on coming up to me going, are you the journalist, son? No! I admit it was a tiny bit challenging because I'm a care worker. No, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, well done, Sarah. Me and you on the front line. No, right. There's a couple of things. There's a yellow book in that room. What I'd really like people to do who haven't written a little message in it, write a little message in your name or whatever. Words of wisdom, how you met Dad, whatever you want. But it'd be really nice so that we can keep that as a memento. I also really do mean this. We really want everyone to tuck into food, right? Because, we don't want to be left with bundles of food. So please, have another drink, but line your stomach with some food. That would be good. I love you all, and I'm really glad that you all know my dad and you've all turned up today. And I'm sorry that I'm so rubbish at... it's a form of illiteracy. I don't know how to use computers. So when people were asking me about MP4s connecting with things, I was getting very stressed. And Chris takes it so well. What a gent he is. Thanks to the Master of Ceremonies. You guys are wonderful. Have a lovely afternoon.
Davey Starkey! And once you've told us where your happy place is, the rest of the storyscape, that's a bit like Desert Island Discs, but in a clearing and with stories rather than music, then unpacks. And we've got the lovely director, owner of UK Health Radio here as well, Johan Ilgenbrits, and his wonderful wife, Raffaella. Reg introduced me to UK Health Radio, and that's one of the places that Reg's episode, and many, many more besides, is being broadcast to this day. So thanks to UK Health Radio. But coming back to Reg, I'd like to ask you, Reg, about your serious, happy place. I think you know where I'm going to ask you to take us, just getting that affirmation. And I'm recording us both on these microphones, so I'll be able to give this back to you as a bit of a mini gift as well. So Reg, talk us through, where would you say your serious, happy place is? Where does Reg Starkey go in the wonderful journeymaning of your life? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational and able to think?
Well, I go in my mind, because I can't go there physically, but in my mind I go to the North Canonry in Salisbury. So if you think of Salisbury Cathedral, if you think of the close, the North Canonry is a lovely house which my benefactor rented, and he had the most beautiful garden, and this beautiful garden, which was very, very long, went right down to the River Avon, and there at the end, by the river, there's a weeping willow tree, and there is a summer house, and the summer house was full of boxes of apples. You could smell the apples and cry just thinking about it. And I used to fish there with my dad, and they were some of the happiest hours of my life. And if I could just go jump sideways, I was with my daughter in South Africa, and I thought I'll recreate this situation. I will go fishing with my daughter, and it will all be wonderful. And we went to a river, and I got a fishing rod, and I stood up at the top, and I cast out, and I fell off and I went crashing down. And my shoulder is still on my hunchback, and I survived. So it was, the road to hell is paved with good intention.
And you mentioned the father and the summer house there, and can you give your benefactor his full name?
He was Sir Reginald Kennedy Cox, and he started a charity called the Dockland Settlements, and he started it because he wanted to be a playwright, and he'd gone to an Old Bailey trial for someone who was on, an 18-year-old young man who was on trial for his life for murdering his girlfriend, and his girlfriend had got pregnant by somebody else, and he was sentenced to death, and my godfather tried to save him, tried to get an appeal to work, but it didn't work, and he was so horrified by how unmoved the lawyers were that he decided to do something and go to the source of the problem. The source of the problem is in the East End of London,
Dockland Settlements,
Yeah.
Wonderful. You've also said about yourself in the many, many conversations that we've had, Reg, that you were unlucky in marriage, but lucky in in-laws. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Well, my first wife is here, so I was very lucky. But my in-laws from Sarah's sisters and brother have been extraordinarily good to me, and my brother from my second marriage, my second wife's ex-wife is not here. That says it all. Jaz's mother, Joanne's mother. But her brother has been a very good friend to me.
Wonderful. I'm going to ask you a final question at the very end to do with your legacy. But this is the moment. Does anyone feel so moved? I know Davey's definitely going to say something. Can you raise your hand if you'd like to say a few words about your connection to, or something you'd like to share about your relationship with Reg? And that's your name is Richard, if you want to. So David, would you like to go first? And anybody else feel so moved to just share a couple of words, no pressure, just to say. So Susu would like to say something as well. It's a bit like an auction house. Susu, there you go.
I was so intrigued, I had to come down from office to find out what this was about.
Speak up.
Sorry, I was very intrigued by the advert that I got, and I had to rush down from Oxford to find out what it's all about. And I think the living wage is a brilliant idea. I've never heard of it before. And I first met Reg in about 2011, maybe, in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know if you know, but alcoholics have this very peculiar combination of characters, which is we have low self-esteem and huge egos, which is absolutely impossible. So, talking about being a failure, I think that's also possibly an alcoholic trait. And Reg is not a failure because he's fascinating life, and he got sober. And if you're not an alcoholic, you probably wouldn't understand what a massive achievement that is. And so when I met Reg, he was a bit like he was trying to get me involved in various schemes, and it was like a bit like it would have been brilliant if I'd met Reg when I was like 20, and he was the same age with his experience, and he was like a wicked uncle. In the best way, but he was always showing, you were always showing positivity and real like a can-do attitude around your schemes and possibilities, which influenced me. We got into poetry together at one point, and I've been out to touch a bit. It was lovely to see you. It's great, wonderful venue, wonderful to meet you all. What a guy!
Marvellous, thank you very much indeed, Richard. And in fact, I'd just like to echo and resonate with your lovely statement there.
In Watford in 1966. I can therefore claim to have known Reg for 60 years. Woohoo! Off and on. And I was in total awe of him in the early years. First of all, he'd written a book of poetry. But secondly, he wagered these awesome amounts of money, in my book, on the lands. And on top of that, he was discriminating enough that he would never have anything to do with National Hunt. It had to be the flats. I thought, God, this is sophistication of a level I've never encountered before. Still lost money. But we kept in touch, and I went into business journalism, and I had the honour of chronicling some of his early attempts to make another fortune, more fortunes, by starting advertising agencies, including, altogether now, Beverley, Fowler, Masley, and Foxley, and Starkey. And in fact, I also went on to, we had this one, we had an idea for an agency aimed at the over 45 or the over 50s. Yes, and I've still got some of the emails to do with that. Reg or one of his associates asked me to write a weekly column for it. And the correspondence ends abruptly when I'm asking him for £200 a column. At that point, there were no replies. It ends at no more. That was clearly out of they intended to pay. But even last year, we were in the cafe at John Lewis's in Oxford Street, discussing yet another of Reg's projects, which completely left me for dead. Reg, keep on coming up with the projects. I know nothing will stop you. Keep going.
And make sure you speak
And
up.
shout, Susie.
Yes, I'm trying to project my voice here, everybody. This is a dear man who I've known since I was 16 or 17. I don't know what age you were. What age I was anyway. And he's a lovely man, and I'm really glad he's on here. And you've introduced me to poetry, which I really loved anyway. So you really introduced me to poetry. And, you know, because we were in advertising, it was a great connection. And you are a dear man. You are. You're a dear man.
Susan, thank you very much indeed. Would anyone else?
The people that came to Reg, or I came over from Hamburg with a delusional idea of creating UK Horse Radio. We got 1.7 million listeners, Reg. We just hit it. And the one thing you taught me is never give up. Keep on keeping on. And I truly, as I said, love you lots, Raphael and I both. We miss you coming around weekly for lunch. We had a ball every week we would meet. Thank you very much for everything.
I joined the advertising industry in 1974 as a sprightly 16-year-old. I've been wanting to do it since 14. I dragged my ass into London, went for interviews and got myself a job. Found out 3 years ago I made an HD, go figure. So I guess that gave me the personality to find my way in there. But not long after joining the industry, I used to hear about this guy called Reg Starkey, who was president of the Creative Circle, not director, he was the top guy, wasn't he? And also, can you hear me? Oh, sorry, I thought I was talking about. So he was president of the Creative Circle, not director. So I knew about this guy, but I never met him. I used to read about him in Campaign magazine, winning all these clients. And I think he knows this now, but I actually went for an interview at his agency and met a guy called Tony Beverly, but didn't get the job. And they were advertising on radio, which was a very unusual thing for an agency to do. And I still today remember the jingle, because they put a bit of an accent or an emphasis on your name, didn't they? And the jingle at the end of the ad did go, Beverly, Fowler, Maslin, Oxlade, and Starkey. And that must have run probably 1978, 9, is it? Earlier, okay. Anyway, I did work with Reg, and I guess it was in your interesting period, wasn't it? Bob, we both worked for a guy called Bob Proops, Marjorie Proops' son, and that was he was a piece of work, I'll tell you. But anyway, look, I met Reg all those years ago, proud to call him my friend, and we have been friends ever since, haven't we, like constantly. And to be invited to this was an honour. I've got my grandchildren at home, my ex-wife's dog, and both of them, my children were running late to pick the kids up, and the dog was late as well. There's no way I couldn't come to this. And thank you very much, Reg, for the invite, and love you forever now.
Thank you.
On behalf of Roman. Roman is a good-looking fellow over there, who's my partner, and we spend a lot of time in Spain. And sometimes we go on holiday, but then we don't have anybody to look after the cat. So Roman said, I've got a friend, his name is Reg. And he just called him. And Reg came out, flying out, and he looked after the cat. And he filled the house with his friends and family as well. And he was the best cat sitter ever. And this is also on behalf of our cleaner, because he was the only cat sitter who ever tipped the cleaner.
Thank you.
Well, I had no idea I was going to come up and speak. I had no idea I was going to say anything. But I'm just, you're not going to, if you're not going to be here to hear it, then I'm going to say it now.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. So I've known Reg about 25 years. We met on a business course. You were doing the copywriting or writing about the course, and I was trying to help coordinate it. And anyway, we met and we fell for each other. We did, and we were together for a while, and we've been friends ever since. And it's been a blast. I've learned so much from you. I want to echo what David said about you never have a bad word for anyone. Well, not you don't. I mean, you just don't. You're the most gorgeous man. Yeah, your dodgy deals. You know, we all know about, and I've got something you really should get involved with. Okay. Let me see what I can do. But we've had so much fun, and I've met so many interesting, amazing people because of having you in my life. Yeah, look, so much wouldn't have happened to me had I not met you, and I love you dearly. And yeah, it's evident with everybody that's here today how much you're loved. So, and yeah, and I wouldn't have known what a haiku was if I met you. All these useful things.
Thank you. And Siobhan, don't forget to shout.
I'm going to shout because I used to be an actress, so I can project. I've known Reg since 45 years. I was 20 and he was 40. And he came in to be the temporary creative director of an advertising agency I used to work for. No one's mentioned it, no one's heard of it, but it was called Chetwynd Haddons. And then when I got back to work on January the 1st after Christmas, everybody had been left a copy of his book, The Weekend Artist. And it's had a little piece of paper inside saying, Love Reg. I hadn't met him during those 3 months, but then the managing director calls me into his office and says, right, Siobhan, you're going to be getting phone calls. I've told Reg he can call upon you any time he wants.
And he did.
I used to be the information officer, so market research, information about products, market share, sales. And then I used to get these calls. And then roses would arrive to say thank you. And then he started to repay me with lunch in Soho, where I met some of the wonderful people who are sadly no longer here. And 45 years later, we still meet up 2 or 3 times a year for lunch. And he wrote me a haiku, which I never knew what it was either, for my 60th a few years ago, which I've got framed. And I love you very, very much. And you're so special. And as everybody here thinks. So who is he? Isn't a failure.
I came to London a couple of weeks ago to sort of plan the sort of running order of today. I borrowed Reg's phone to ask a technical question, and the first thing Davey said as he picked up the phone, not knowing that someone had nicked his dad's phone, he said the words, "Hello, lovely dad." And he said that immediately, and I said, it's not your lovely dad, but Reg is sitting about 2 feet away from me. That can ask you a technical question. Then it went click, 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 and that went on. Great. Now we're going to invite speaker number 2, please. So, Richard, I think that's you.
Yes, me. What am I doing?
Borrowed from Shakespeare, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. I all know you know who Shakespeare is, but I just thought I'd get a book out which sort of adds an extra bit of property to it. So, Reg, when all is said and done, here at your own glorious living wake that I'm sure has planted the seed for all of us thinking what a glorious idea, how, when all is said and done, Reginald Starkey, would you most like to be remembered? As someone goes to the loo.
I'm a middle-aged man, I didn't know.
Very simply, as a good bloke, really, and not
Speak up, Ray.
Speak up. Sorry, as a good bloke, and ideally not as someone who still owes you money. God the hell, I've written that off. He's gone. Someone who says, "Oh well, omnia tibi gabea," I owe everything to you. That the debts are written off.
We are indebted to you, conversely. I would say, au contraire, we are indebted to you. We haven't done this overtly, but can we all raise a fist, a hand, a glass, whatever you've got that can do that, mine. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a quick thanks at the end, but can we say a big hurrah and a toast to Sir Reginald Starkey? I'm going to do a big thank you, but is there anyone with absent friends that you'd like to thank, Reg?
Well, there are lots of people, as I said briefly, there are people who...
You're coming back from the loo.
Well, yeah,
You have to speak louder. From your family side, could you speak louder?
I'm not an actor, I can't project. I just really appreciate everybody being here and everybody who couldn't be here because they're in some other sphere. That's tragic. But I'm just so grateful for all the people who are here. I really appreciate, these people who come from Minehead, these people who come from Marbella, come all the way from Scotland. Thank you.
Fulham.
Wales, North London, next door. Bristol. I'm just overwhelmed. So thank you very much. I just want to say thank you.
You're very welcome. And yes, so does anyone want to say anything else at this point?
No.
Wonderful. And now, time to roll credits. Thank you very much indeed to Saul Barrington for hosting here. And Saul, what do you do here so we can come and book it in the future? Just give us a pitch for why we should come and do all future recordings here.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Would you like to say anything else?
No, just
I remembered Saul's name, and I hope you get better really soon, because Saul has gallstones.
Very unwell.
Yes, thank you for that. So, thank you very much indeed to Saul Barrington. I'm Chris Grimes, I've been your MC. Thank you very much indeed to Jim Smith for Streets of London, Sylvan Mason for the videography, Barry Graham, all our other guest speakers as well, Jazz Starkey and Georgie. So Georgie and Jazz, the dream team for the catering. Susu for just being you, I think, was the thing. So Susu being you. And of course, Saul Barrington as well. Where's Saul? We've done Saul. There he is again. I've reincorporated you. Were so good, I've mentioned you twice.
Well, Chris, can I put raise a glass to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Speak up.
Thank you. I'm an actor, darling, and do come and get a card from me if you want to, and do make sure you listen. I mean, honestly, it is a glorious, glorious episode, and Reg has been kind enough to do a bit of a case study for it. But as I say, it's called thegoodlisteningtoshow.com, and then the series strand about legacylifereflections.com. The supposition is it takes 2 hours of your or their life to record and capture that precious life forever, and it would be my absolute privilege to be entrusted with your narratives if you'd like to tell your story, or to someone's story that you love as well.
Life is full of cages, those summer velvet lined. So be glad you've got your freedom, and friends not hard to find. The lights along the river like a woman's tears. Love or work or booze or foods, no way to deal with fears. Life is full of cages, those summer velvet lined. Clothes and cars can hide the scars, but the pain is left behind. Just be glad you've got your freedom, and friends not hard to find. Settle for who you are and what you've got. You're much more than enough. Don't tell me that you're not. Life is full of cages, though some are velvet lined. So be glad you've got your freedom, and friends not hard to find. Just be glad you've got your